A patient is in a serious condition in hospital this morning after a, quote, technical event caused a plane travelling from Sydney to Auckland to suddenly drop altitude, injuring about 50 people on board. Let's bring in Jack Nyhoff, our New Zealand correspondent now in New Zealand. Jack, good morning. Video from passengers shows the terror that those on board must have been experiencing.
Good morning, Pete. At least 12 patients have spent part of the night in hospital. I've just been in contact with authorities here. 5 remain in hospital this morning, all of them injured on flight LA 800 from Sydney Airport heading here to New Zealand to Auckland. Passengers say they felt a sharp drop, with crew and those not wearing seatbelts sent flying into the cabin roof. Video shows the aftermath, including a crew member lying on the floor appearing to be unresponsive. We understand 4 Australians were on board the flight.
A massive jolt happened, and I was awakened, and I looked up to see the gentleman that was sitting next to me on the roof of the plane. I'm looking at him fully outstretched with his back on the roof of the plane, and then he came crashing down to the floor.
3 crew members were sent to hospital along with 9 passengers. 1 patient was in a serious condition. 1 patient was in a moderate condition, the rest minor conditions. Now, that flight leaving Sydney just before 11:30 a.m. Australian time. It flew for 2 hours. Before that incident, emergency crews swarmed Auckland Airport when a call came through around 2 p.m. Sydney time, sending 14 units. Now, this is from LATAM Airlines. They say in a statement, flight LA 800 operating the Sydney to Auckland route had a technical event during the flight which caused a strong movement. LATAM deeply regrets any inconvenience and discomfort this situation may have caused its passengers and reiterates its commitment to safety as a priority within the framework of its operational standards. Authorities will launch an investigation into what exactly caused that technical event on this Boeing 787 aircraft. Passengers say they felt like the plane was falling out of the sky, with another passenger saying there was blood on the ceiling. The remaining passengers will be put on a new flight today heading to Chile.
Yeah, a technical event. I mean, that could have meant a million different things. It'd be good to get a clear explanation of what that is. I'm sure they're working on that. Jack, appreciate that. Thank you. Well, let's bring in a passenger who was on that flight now, Lucas Ellwood. Good morning to you. Thanks for your time. So what was your experience when that plane dropped altitude, Lucas?
It's so hard to remember. Everything happened so quickly. My experience, I reacted to it in a calm manner, and I provided first aid assistance to those around me.
Okay, can you just explain to me when that plane dropped altitude, though, what did you see, what did you feel?
Immediately I saw mobile phones and people floating near the roof, and then within a second everything came crashing down to the ground, and everybody just started screaming and crying and asking for medical assistance, which wasn't really provided by the flight crew.
Was there any warning that you were going through any kind of turbulence, Lucas?
No, there was absolutely nothing, and that is just the strange thing about it. We all naturally thought it was turbulence because that's what you would experience on a regular flight.
Yeah, I mean, I've experienced something similar. It was on a small plane, though, and we just hit an air pocket, and it was just a sudden drop in altitude, but then it leveled out. So it was not that, in your view?
It was quite a significant drop, which caused people to hit the roof. It was over in a moment of seconds, and just chaos everywhere.
And I'm sure, you know, people screaming. I mean, you said you stayed quite calm and were helping people. How did you stay calm? And most folks would be terrified, I would have thought.
I've done a few hundred hours of virtual reality piloting, so okay. I'm fluent in piloting, and I was praying that the pilots would take us to safety.
Did the pilot get on the speaker and explain what had happened afterwards or anything like that, Lucas?
Yes, but it took maybe half an hour for that to happen.
And what did he say?
I forget, because since it was a South American airline, English wasn't the main language on the plane.
Mm. Okay.
Yeah, so it was almost broken English, and it was very limited on the information they gave us.
Okay. What were some of the injuries that you saw?
There were lots of head injuries, back injuries. Several people needed neck braces, and there were lots of older ladies with hand injuries.
Mm. As we just reported, Jack reported a short time ago, some passengers had seen blood in the fuselage. Did you see anything like that?
One passenger directly behind me was in the toilet when it happened, and he came back with a bloody head and said that he went straight through the roof.
Oh, Jesus. If we can bring up this vision, I don't know, we've been running this all morning, Lucas. There was a passenger who was lying in the middle of the plane.
Yes.
Can you
I
tell
was
us
in that
what...
section.
You were helping that person, were you?
I was on the other side of the plane, and they asked for a belt, and so I stood up from the other side of the plane and handed them my belt that I wasn't using.
What was the belt needed for?
The belt was needed for not this person on the ground, but a person next to them who had a gash on his back, and he also had gashes on his head. So he was being helped by the passengers around.
Far out. This is my worst nightmare, and it would be for most people, Lucas. What was there how did the passengers react when you got on the ground safely?
Everybody cheered, everybody applauded, and everybody was sighing sighs of relief. It was a magic moment.
No doubt. And was there any offers from the airline to any kind of make good?
No, not really.
Would you expect there to be?
It's hard to say. We don't really know how LATAM Airlines operates, so I don't know if that's a thing in their country.
Okay.
Right?
Was there any other issues other than that?
It took almost an hour upon getting to the airport to get off the plane. So it was a lengthy ordeal.
But as for and I'll wrap it up here, but just as for the initial incident, it was just a couple of seconds.
The initial jolt was just under 1 second. It was over before you knew it.
So that was one big, hard and fast jolt, and then people went flying. Presumably they didn't have their seatbelts on, which is, I guess, why they tell you keep your seatbelts on.
Yes, when traveling at a 1,000 kilometers an hour, it's very scary.
All right, Lucas Ellwood, really appreciate your time this morning. You've certainly taken us on board that flight, and it was frightening for me to hear what you're saying, but glad that you're okay and you managed to stay cool. Thanks, Lucas. We'll chat to you again soon.